About 4, maybe 5 months ago, right after Donald Trump won his election victory back in November, I used this thumbnail for a video saying that a betrayal was coming. It was based on a comment that Donald Trump himself had posted on his own Truth Social that made a lot of people do a double take. Well, now there's more evidence that we are being betrayed in real time, and very few people out there are wanting to talk about it. Real quick poll, show of hands, how many of you, if I had told you back in November that Donald Trump would have an honored guest, Bill Maher, at Mar-a-Lago, right after the week that he endorsed Lindsey Graham, and then also endorsed a man who is so disgustingly and grossly obese and overweight that he can't even wipe himself, Randy Fine? How many of you would have believed me if I had said that he was going to have multiple Democrats in his administration, from Tulsi Gabbard to RFK Jr., all of these different people? You see, it's about maintaining a culture of truth. It's something that we're going to talk about later on today over the Florida Monkey Patreon channel. We're going to put up a brand new video. And we referenced it yesterday, the idea that I can find about 10 different things that if people were told by Trump to go do, they would go do, simply because he told them to do it. Now, what was that thing that he posted? People are like, wait, what did he post way back then that made everybody... Listen to this. This is 9 November 2024. Donald Trump, I'm very surprised at the Democrats who fought a hard and valiant fight in the 2020 presidential election, raising a record amount of money, didn't have lots of money left over. Now they're being squeezed by vendors and others. Now here's the part you gotta just absolutely vomit when you hear. Whatever we can do to help them, the Democrats, during this difficult period, I would strongly recommend we, as a party, and for the sake of desperately needed unity, do. We have a lot of money left over, and that our biggest asset in the campaign was earned media, and that doesn't cost very much, MAGA, all this stuff. How does this not go directly against the idea of what Doge is supposed to be doing? If the Democrats blew all their money and ended up in debt, why is it the people who donated Donald Trump's job to bail them out? See, this is the point. This is the point that I've been making about this for a long time. That something's coming. Now, we're going to watch a clip. We're going to watch a clip of Governor Ron DeSantis on the Dana Loesch show. And this is going to show you something about what happens when you even try to tell the American people that, hey, you know what? I know maybe you might not like Kamala Harris, you might not like Donald Trump, but there's maybe another option. You see, that's the worst sin you can ever commit. Donald Trump right now hates Ron DeSantis more than he hates Bill Maher. He hates Ron DeSantis more than he hates Lindsey Graham. This is the most unreal thing. Donald Trump has now gotten people in the Florida House of Representatives, conservatives, Republicans, to buck Governor DeSantis' agenda. And wait until you listen what he's trying to do for the people of this country, people of the state. And what Donald Trump is getting these guys to do on his behalf to make Ron DeSantis' life far worse than it has to be. Let's listen to Dana Loesch. Dana Loesch is from Texas. Dana Loesch is about the most pro-gun conservative you have ever met in your life. So without any further delay, let's go right to it.
This is why it's so important. Yes, you want to elect Republicans, and yes, it's great to have a super majority, but you also have to be sure that you're electing good quality Republicans. And nothing frustrates anybody, voters, more than what we're seeing in Florida and Texas. But Florida, I think, is even bigger, because Florida is like the blueprint for the nation, how Republican policies should be enacted and how things should be governed and administrated. And they have such a wealth of victory over there. And it's like the governor is like fighting, like he's just out there fighting the legislature, and it's just, I want to pull my hair out, so I can't even imagine where he is right now. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis joins us from the governor's mansion on Skype. It's good to see you, Governor. First off, thank you for fighting for Second Amendment rights and holding true to the promises that you made when campaigning. You have been pushing these lawmakers to deliver this for voters. So I thank you as a big Second Amendment advocate on that. But I also have to say, I'm so sorry that voters and you are fighting just to get everything else that was promised, that these lawmakers promised them.
Well, Dana, I will say this. I think that I do see a distinction between the Florida House and the Florida Senate. I think we've had real productive discussions about all these significant issues with a lot of our senators, whether it's property tax, whether it's some of the other things that we want to do with things like education, law enforcement. I think the Florida House of Representatives is basically engaged in something that voters clearly don't like and will not like in the future. They have ridden into office on the goodwill that has been generated by our Florida model, where, previous legislatures were very much working with me on that. It wasn't like I just did it all, but it generated a lot of goodwill. We tackled all the big issues. We delivered an unprecedented amount of conservative wins. And so they now have this big supermajority in the Florida House, almost a 3-to-1 supermajority. Wow. And how are they using that? They are using it to do things like carbon sequestration. They are doing it to do things like joining with Democrats to undo spending reductions that I put in the budget last June. They are doing things like expanding bureaucracies and trying to create new government offices. And so you think about, like, you campaigned on the Florida model, and yet you're doing your best to squander it. And people will say, oh, the governor thinks they just have to do what he wants. No. You do what you campaigned on. If you told the voters that you were opposed to expanding Second Amendment protections, if you told them that you were going to join with Democrats to increase pork spending, if you said to voters that you weren't going to entertain property tax relief, but you were going to indulge in climate hysteria and things like carbon sequestration, if that's what you campaigned on, look, I disagree with that. But if that's what you do, then you're being true to the voters that elected you. But none of these guys campaigned on that. They all campaigned on our conservative agenda. And now that they're in power, they're basically squandering this. I even had to make a statement on, they don't want to do property tax. They don't want to do open carry. But one thing they have done is they have tried to take away the Capitol office for our U.S. Senator Ashley Moody. It had been with Marco Rubio for 15 years. Marco became Secretary of State. I appointed Senator Moody to be the U.S. Senator, and the House took it away because Senator Moody, and you remember these discussions back in January, she sided with me against the House on the immigration enforcement legislation. I called a special session. We wanted to make sure all state and local were participating with ICE. We wanted to help Trump increase deportations. The House leadership and staff drafted a bill that was basically an amnesty bill. There was huge voter blowback. I know you had one of the rhinos on, I think one of the rhino senators on your show, and he couldn't answer any of the questions about it. But this was really something that the House was driving, and she did the right thing. So they're now taking that away, and they're actually filing legislation to deny her the ability to use the office and to regulate parking spaces in the Florida Capitol. How petty is this? How embarrassing is this that we are this model Republican state? We had 2 years of unprecedented conservative victories, and now the Florida House of Representatives is all spun up about legislating who controls parking space in the basement of the Capitol.
You're right. Petty is a great way to describe it. For those listening, we're talking to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and you can watch it also Channel 367 DirecTV. You mentioned they're trying to undo a lot of the cost savings that you've implemented. From what I read, and I think you cited this as well, over $60 million. That's what are they trying to spend this money on? I mean, these savings. This is one of the things that you promised voters. Voters were very happy, and now they're trying to undermine your efforts. They do realize, Governor, that all the people that moved to Florida were moving to Florida because they were happy with the administration of the state and that they were happy with the direction that the state was going. This seems like a bait and switch, what these Republican legislators in the House are doing.
Well, that's the thing, Dana, and I mean, this is not for me to beat my own chest, but the reality is when I go out, do different events, even just go run errands in Florida, someone will come up to me every single time without fail and say, I moved to Florida because of you and what you've done and what Florida stands for. So we have a unique brand in this country right now for the type of governance that people who think like us really aspire to. And that's just a fact. I mean, that is how we've had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Republicans who gravitated to this state since I've been governor, driven by they want to live in a place that respects their freedom, where the folks in power share their values. And so that's just kind of what we've done. So it's really false advertising to go get into office on that goodwill. And remember, we didn't have a supermajority my first term.
Right.
We got the supermajority in the House with the my reelection in 2022. We were winning places that Republicans had never won before, and then we were able to hold that in 2024. And I think the reason why we held it in 24, the supermajority, is because voters saw the results that we had produced. We had delivered a huge legislative agenda, more significant than probably had ever been done in American history, certainly in modern Republican Party history, and the voters responded positively. So to now go in and to be doing all these games and to not really focusing on the issues that matter. And here's the thing, I think that there's a lot of folks in the Florida Senate that want to continue to advance the ball. They're working hard on different things. And I may not agree with them on everything, but I think their goal is to try to arrive at the best outcome for the state. I do think a lot of what motivates the House, particularly the leadership, is they want to join with Democrats to stop me. This is what they want to do. They view the last 2 years, even though we've had unprecedented success legislatively, they view those last 2 years negatively because they say, the governor was getting everything he wants. And it wasn't what I wanted, Dana. It was what the voters delivered us here to do. I won the state by 20 points. I mean, no Republican has ever won a victory like that in the history of Florida. And so the legislators in the House, they were following through on the mandate that we had received. It wasn't because I was saying it. It was because the voters demanded it.
Right. And the voters demanded tough immigration enforcement. So this is one of the things that you were victorious on, making sure that emergency powers were retained, the illegal alien transport, going after transnational gangs, no in-state tuition for illegal immigrants, suspensions, removal from office, your authority to suspend or remove local officials who are not complying with the federal deportation, this is all the federal mandate coming in and being implemented at the Florida state level, and there were fights against you for this. This is,
And you can even see, though, on that, look at what's happened. So the Florida House fought me on that. They said that this wasn't something that was urgent. They said that it could wait till the regular session. Now, they wouldn't have done it in the regular session either, and I knew that. That's why I insisted on a special session. And so the House wrote this ridiculous amnesty bill that stopped my efforts that I had been doing. But what we have now in Florida, because of the legislation that we got enacted, we have all 67 Florida counties, the sheriffs, have 287G agreements with ICE. We're the only state in the country that can say that. We now have more and more police departments that are signing up. We had the Fort Myers City Council. They initially voted not to cooperate with ICE, and then the Attorney General and myself reminded them, you don't have the choice. The state law mandates you, and I have the ability to remove you. So then they reversed course, and they did. So not only are we not a sanctuary state, we're a state where you have a duty to affirmatively help with these deportation efforts. So no other state has done that, but none of the stuff that has made positive news on immigration in Florida with state and local, none of that probably would have happened had the House gotten their way back in January. And so you think about it, of all the things President Trump ran on, border and immigration was probably number one. He got delivered a mandate. Biden was the worst president on immigration in American history. Here I am as governor saying, state of Florida needs to be on board with the Trump administration. Let's go, day one, ahead of the curve. We got to do it. And the House of Representatives in Florida fought me over that. And eventually we landed the plane. But I mean, you would think, why did I have to call that special session? Why didn't the House call the special session after Trump won and say, no, we've got urgency. Let's stand with the president. They didn't do that because that's not what they wanted to do. And because I wanted to do it, that's why they fought it. Right. If I propose to get rid of property taxes, they will fight it. If I propose, to continue with Hope Florida, the First Lady's initiative that has gotten people out of welfare onto self-sufficiency, save taxpayers $100 million, they'll oppose it. And they are now opposing that. So it's all just a reaction to try to fight me rather than try to do what's best for Florida. And again, if they had run in their primaries saying, if you nominate me, I pledge to oppose the governor, and they were to win, and that's what they do, that's totally fine with me. None of them campaigned on that because none of them would have won their primaries if they campaigned on that.
And it looks like one of them's not going to win an election.
Real quick. Now, some of you are probably asking, why is the Florida House doing this? Why is the Florida House opposing Governor DeSantis just for the hell of it? Well, it's real simple. They're actually doing it, I know it sounds strange, because they want to see Trump get the credit for it, not Governor DeSantis. Donald Trump has put out the word, oppose Ron DeSantis at all cost, put in some mealy-mouthed replacement like Byron Donalds. That's Donald Trump's goal, was to put in some mealy-mouthed, middle-of-the-road governor like Byron Donalds so that all of the credit for everything that goes on in Florida and every other state all trickles uphill to him in Washington, D.C. And there's another problem, too, that the governor's fighting. The big home builders, the big, huge corporations that build all these homes, have now gotten into bed with the Florida trial lawyers to oppose the man. Oop, hold on. There we go. This is the problem that Ron DeSantis is fighting right now. It is a shadow war being fought by Trump supporters. They don't like Ron DeSantis anymore because he ran in a primary against Donald Trump, who said he didn't even, he was above a primary. He was like not even going to participate in any of the debates or anything like that. That he was the heir apparent to the White House. That nobody else could possibly lead this country except him. That's what's going on in Florida right now. And this is the dangerous part about being in a cult. And I'm sorry, but Trump supporters are in a cult. What's happening to Ron DeSantis, what's going on in the House of Representatives in Florida is indicative of what's happening across the country. I know people are like, "This, how can this possibly be?" You can't be for strong borders and also be a capitalist. You can't. Capitalism is the astounding belief that the most wicked of men will do the wickedest of things for allegedly the greatest good of everyone. And this is the most hilarious part. This is the best quote I've ever found. We're supposed to live under capitalism, and capitalism is supposed to be competitive. So you would expect that capitalists and entrepreneurs would like competition. Well, it turns out that capitalists do everything they can to avoid competition. Now, remember the whole Trump tariff thing? Listen to this. In 2002, President George W. Bush raised tariffs on steel products in hopes of saving the U.S. steel industry. The move backfired. Longtime trading partners were outraged and threatened to retaliate on American-made goods. More jobs were lost than saved. Quote, "We found that there were 10 times as many people in the steel-using industries as there were in the steel-producing industries," U.S. Senator Lamar Alexander, Republican, Tennessee, told Politico in 2018 they lost more jobs in the steel-using industry than even exist in the steel producing industry. It goes on, 7 years after that steel tariff was imposed, President Barack Obama slapped a 35% levy on Chinese tires. The president would later boast that the tariff saved 1,200 U.S. tire jobs and spurred a rise in U.S. tire production after a protracted decline. But a 2012 review by the Peterson Institute of International Economics found that as a result of tariffs, Americans ended up paying more for tires. The cost of the Chinese-made tires, of course, rose 26%, and with less competition from China, domestic tire makers raised their prices 3.2%. That's what tariffs do. They eliminate competition. Tariffs eliminate competition. And the final quote, Eugene V. Debs from a long time ago, basically, I'm going to paraphrase here. Republicans are large capitalists. Democrats are small capitalists. But when it comes down to it, and it boils down to it, whether they're Republican or Democrat, they're all capitalists first. And what the governor's fighting right now is a lot of big money interests in this country, in our state. The ones that want to build just all of the shitbox houses and tear down all of the wild areas and tear down all of the cut down all of the trees, just to put up a bunch of crap box and shit box houses. And they need the borders open. They need the borders open so that they can have labor that they can pay substandard wages to build those houses. And the governor has also come out and to try to save people money in this country. He's tried to, as much as he can, to get insurance rates down and to get taxes down and to get taxes removed. He has come basically into the crosshairs of the big trial lawyers who make money off the litigation that keeps insurance rates high. And he goes on, and I'll let you go listen to Dana Loesch for the rest of this, and he talks about this, about who his real enemies are. And his real enemies are basically Trump-supporting capitalists. See, Trump wants to be seen as the guy. He would rather have open borders than not be seen as the guy who closed them. Let me say that again. Trump needs to be the guy who gets the credit. Anybody else who is seen as working with him or possibly worthy of any praise has to be gotten rid of. And it comes down to this. See, he has to be seen as the guy who flipped Bill Maher. And there's a lot of conservatives who've never been invited to the White House. They're like, wait a minute. Why is this guy who's just, completely, trashed Donald Trump for years and years and years, far worse than this channel ever has, he gets an invite to dinner with the man? Why is Lindsey Graham being endorsed by Donald Trump? What are all these Democrats doing in Donald Trump's administration? You see, this thing about Randy Fine, some people think that I'm picking on the guy just because of his weight. His weight is an indication of something else. Anybody who lets themselves get this far into obesity has a self-control problem, has a mental issue, has a self-indulgence problem. And the fact that in this particular, and I'll leave with this, I know it's 25 minutes in, Randy Fine ended up winning against his Democrat opponent. In the district that I live in, the governor was very correct when he said it's physically impossible to have anybody who's a Democrat win here. But Randy Fine only won by about, I think, 9 or 10 points. The governor won by between 20 and 30. Trump won that district between 20 and 30 points, our district. And who else? The guy he replaced, Mike Waltz, the national security advisor that left that seat. He won by 20 or 30 points. This guy lost a solid 15 points of support, but still won. And the only reason he won is because he put a MAGA hat on. If you don't think that's a problem, then perhaps Trump supporters aren't really about maintaining a culture of truth, and maybe they don't believe in personal responsibility. That's kind of the idea. And once again, that'll lead us right down the road to when Trump says, hey, or Musk says, hey, this is going to be great. Just let them stick this needle in your arm, and I'll give you 10 reasons you will. I'll give you 10 reasons later on today at Patreon that you will. So, anyway, I will leave it there. Sometimes capitalism isn't always the best way to go. Love to have you. Join us, Florida Monkey Patreon channel. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.